This episode of Nuff Said is brought to you by Tweaked Audio. To get awesome headphones, go to tweakedaudio.com and use the coupon code Southgate to get 30% off, free shipping, and a lifetime warranty. Or you can get there through the link on our website, southgatemediagroup.com.
In a world of heroes and monsters, one group of special individuals stand as our shield against the dangers that lurk in the night. They are the agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Nuff said. Hey, heroes! Welcome once again to Nuff Said, the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. podcast on the Southgate Group. I'm your host, Charlie the Professor Esser, and with me, as always, my equal in every way co-host, my skinny rich friend.
It's Mozz.
Thank you, Mozz. Yeah, you know, I say equal because I don't want to say I'm the host and you're the co-host. No, we are equals in every way. We are brothers of the
Right
podcast.
on.
And
No. But yeah, I feel more comfortable with you, with sort of you leading the charge and me, sort of like adding stuff.
you know what, man?
we're dynamic and it works the way it works.
I think it's great though. You know, I don't want you to have Robin syndrome, man. I don't want you to think of you as the sidekick. You are the co-hero, like Captain America and Falcon, man. They are co-heroes. No one's the sidekick.
I dig it.
You know, as I always say, Captain America is actually the sidekick because Falcon has the in front of his name. So, because you're the, then you're the primary hero. So it's the Falcon and Captain America. You know, so.
The Batman and Robin.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. Okay, tonight's episode, season 6, episode 10, Leap. The team must trust each other in order to face impending doom and an enemy that's closer than they think. Director this week is Gary A. Brown. Of course, we have our Marvel created by credits of Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, who are not being listed here on. Getting real political. They're only listing Jack Kirby on the based on Marvel by credit on IMDb. They get real political at this place, let me tell you. Our created bys are, of course, as always, Joss Whedon, Jed Whedon, and Marissa Tankarian. Drew Z. Greenberg gets a written by this week. James Oliver and Sharia Oliver are, of course, lording it over as executive story editors, our friend and colleague, hardest working man in show business. What's his name, Mozz?
Oh, crap! I keep. George Kitson.
George Kitson, unsung hero of it all, story editor for life. Our man in the trenches. Okay.
Of course.
We got. I got to give my props up to George Kitson.
Indeed. And he must be doing something really good there for them to name a whole damn planet after him.
Honestly, yeah. It's like they really. I think George Kitson is beloved among the crew. I think that there's a very friendly dynamic there. I can't wait to see what George Kitson does next in this life because I think this guy is going places. Mark my words. Okay, so when we last left episode, oh my goodness, you know what we forgot to talk about last night?
What?
Or last episode? The big shocking end of the episode, where May comes in and she's charged.
Right.
We totally forgot that. So hey, spoilers for last episode. We totally blanked on it. Yes, at the end of the episode last week.
It just seems like it would be a part of this episode because it seems like a new beginning, and that's what sets everything in motion, kind of. So I guess that's why we kind of accidentally glossed over it.
Exactly, and there was so much stuff. And also the 5-year mention really throws it all into higgledy-piggledy land. I think we can all agree to that. But, so May shoots Sarge, and when we come into this, and they say, and she's just like, yeah, I did it. What do you want from me? But this, of course, kicks off what is the big plot to the story. And I think last episode we presented it as the idea of the man in the chair watching the bomb. Watching the time tick, 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 tick. This episode is kind of like that in the idea that we all know this is like if you ever saw The Thing. And I don't mean the remake, the very popular, everyone loves it remake with the big monster thing. But the original thing, where they couldn't afford all the effects for the monster, and it just becomes who is the monster now. And it takes them a while to figure out that, oh, wait, there's a monster here.
Well, it doesn't really take them that long at all, which was kind of what I found interesting. And it's another one of those scenarios where they just say, hey, just go with it. And I'm like, yeah, all right, we're just going to go with it. They just figured it out. It's like, I was there, they was there. Hey, wait a second. She must be doing the exact same thing that she's actually doing, and we just like happened upon it.
Exactly.
So, but it's okay.
And I love this also because, and this is one of these things I really like, where Fitz and Simmons, and this is like just a classic S.H.I.E.L.D. spy thing. They know Sarge is still alive. They don't tell anyone. Now, normally, that's the kind of thing that gets, you eaten by the monster at the end of the episode. But these guys have been doing this long enough, apparently, that they know when to hold them and when to fold them,
Yeah, but do you think, I also got the sense that maybe this was the first time that Sarge came back. That maybe he didn't know he had this capability, because he still keeps, the assumption that he's not, that he is just a human, and he said he's been alive for hundreds of years. I don't know that he had died. He might have come close before, but I think this is it might have been the first time that he is even.
Well, I guess the second answer to that is he didn't die. And so if someone shoots him 6 times and he falls in the snow, and then an hour later he gets up out of the snow, that's just, he wasn't really dead in the start, He may not even think it's that weird. After all, he has no memories of his actual past. He doesn't know that that's not just what people do. And for what it's worth, the person that we learn in this episode he's based on, he is based on Coulson, came back from the dead.
So he's just like Fitz's, evil double and Simmons' evil double. He's just the subconscious bad stuff that was in Coulson's mind come to life.
Well, actually, I guess there's a secondary question: is any of his stuff bad stuff? I mean, you yourself were saying, a soldier has to make these hard decisions sometimes. Is it so much that he's? And this is what I'll say: is like as we watch it play out, as we watch what we're seeing occur, I think there is way more of Coulson in Sarge than Ezell thinks. I think that the whole point is that Ezell thinks Sarge is something other than he is, but in fact he is much more Coulson. Because
right, the shadow of those memories and the shadow of that loss is his defining feature.
Exactly. Because, as they kind of suggest, they had no form before this. And, and we get this idea in this episode actually mostly in last episode, with Ezell saying, I thought we agreed these people were, useless. These people were not worthy of the life they had, so... which is not what Fitz and Simmons said in any context.
Right.
But yeah, sure, why not? It's interesting the way they play it. I actually imagine that, at the end of the day, the dynamic between between Sarge and Ezell is much more convoluted than Ezell wants to think. I think that as it's this idea. Well, here, let me give you an example.
Okay.
The idea of apotheosis is the idea of man becoming God. That man, through meditation, etc., yada yada yada, comes to know what it means to be God and then becomes God. This is the story of the Buddha. This is the story of Hercules. This is the story of many, many ancient beings. The story that does not get spoken about enough, but is still a valid concept is the story of anti-apotheosis, the idea of the God who comes to Earth and suddenly learns what it is to be human. And not to get religious here, but I'm a Catholic, and so I actually have this bond to the Christian faith in that idea. The idea that, God in heaven is a God in heaven and doesn't think about humanity. But once God takes human form and actually takes a minute to actually know what it's like to be human, it actually changes his whole perspective. It's like, oh man, this is actually a really rough life. I didn't realize what I was putting folks through. There's a great episode of, if you ever see, remember Third Rock from the Sun?
Absolutely.
And there's this great episode with Joseph Gordon-Levitt and
John Lithgow.
John Lithgow, where Joseph Gordon-Levitt is trying to explain to him puberty to their beings, and it's like, I want you to understand what I'm going through right now. And so they share minds, like, oh my gosh, that's what's going on with you. It's like, yes. How am I supposed to function like this? And it is this idea of like, wow, once you go from this world that you have no experience of, and then you come to experience it, you suddenly see the world differently. And in this way, and he said his name, I can't remember, but it was like Mokolok or something like that,
Pachukalon, something like that.
Machukalok. I think it ends with an ak, but anyway.
Yeah, you think you're right.
M ends with an ak. What's in the middle, I don't know. But he makes this point, but it's this idea that, yes, he was this, for lack of a better word, he was this demon from this other realm.
Now, when that doctor was going over the mythology of Ezel, did he mention a dual spirit kind of thing there, or did he mention that it was connected with something else, that Sarge could be that spirit or something?
He did not at the time.
Oh, okay.
He only mentioned Ezel that I recall. Well, I have to go. Okay. To hear these things, I got to go back and rewatch the first couple episodes now. I got to do that after the whole 5 years line from last episode. I got to go back and rewatch everything and see. I got to go back and rewatch last season and say, wait, how long is that last episode supposed to be taking over? Because we know, okay, they stopped Graviton. But then a lot of other stuff happens after they stop Graviton, and what we see after that, I gotta see. And be honest with you, I didn't even notice that Gamora isn't in the final scene with the Guardians. So it's like, obviously there's lots going on that I'm assuming is there that's not always necessarily there. So I gotta watch that. I gotta rewatch it and see what they've been hinting at. But in this case, what was I saying? Oh yeah. So in this case, when Sarge rejects Ezel, it is the statement of him saying, I reject who you are. I reject what you are.
I reject what you think I am.
Exactly, because I've come to know the corporal world. I've come to know what it is to have family and friends. And to be fair, you can make the argument that the team he builds around him, in its own way, is his own shield team. He's got a big guy, a smart guy, and the little daughter character like freaking Quake was to him.
Right.
And I think there's a lot going on there that we haven't really even scratched the surface of. And I think that's what makes this a great show. And, this is our penultimate episode. Take a drink. Oh, it's not the penultimate episode. This is the penultimate season. So take another drink. Every time you say the word penultimate, you have to take a drink. That's
all right. So by now we should be thoroughly buzzed.
I usually say it about 10 times before we start the show. But yeah, that's the Capes and Lunatics / Southgate Media drinking game. Every time you say the word penultimate, take a drink. But as we're going through this episode and this season, and we're going towards whatever lies ahead, we have to, deal with this idea that we have unleashed these gods into the world that no one else knows about. And we come into this at the very end of this, where they say, where Fitz is like, actually, non-corporeal beings that enter other beings, we actually have met things like that before. And he calls back to Ghost Rider, who was in the previous seasons, and it's this thing now where they're like, yeah, which again goes into that quasi-mystical aspect of things, because that again derives from the Darkhold. Although I gotta say, my favorite part about this episode is when they're telling him what the other Fitz said, which was that well, you said it was the fear dimension, and he says, well, remember, he's not the smart one.
Right. Now, does he at this point know that Deke is his grandson?
I think, yeah, at this point, because he asked why he keeps on calling him Bobo, and he says that's what you said he wanted to be called. Which I just love. It's just
my favorite thing is because like Deke has been built up as this character who doesn't really care about anything but himself, but here he is trying to earn the favor of his grandfather, who he looks up to, and it's this most adorable thing, and it's quite redeeming of a quality in him, I think.
Well, yeah, and honestly, I do think Deke is in his own way just a guy who's trying to.
He's trying his best.
Well, exactly. You know what? And you have to remember, see, Deke comes from a world that was not a world at all.
Yeah.
He was a scavenger. His, as they say, his whole life was reverse engineering alien technology. He is everything that he is, from this world of darkness and pain. And it kind of reminds you when we started this season, and I think his name is Pax, makes the point that, oh, hey, why don't we just chill out here for a while? This is a world with blue skies and sugar water. How many worlds do we come to that have blue skies and sugar water? And here he is now in this world of blue skies and sugar water, where they're giving him money because he knows how to do science stuff. And, it's in every way the most awesome situation he could ever be in.
Right.
But he also, of course, wants his grandfather's love because, that's important to him. He never really, it's like, that's the thing. It's like, how they always say, if you could have, dinner with any person, living or dead, who would it be? And I always, I didn't used to say this because they were alive. But now that they're dead, I always say my parents, because just having that moment again with someone who is gone from your life is such an amazing idea. And here's this guy who, for the most part, he knew his grandparents as kids, and when he was a kid, and then they got lost, and then he lost his mom and all this kind of stuff. And then he suddenly gets this moment to reconnect with these two adults who are literally his grandparents, and he's like, how often in anyone's life are you ever going to have this gift?
Yeah.
And he just wants to have this gift,
But it's almost surprising that he is even a good enough person to seek that out, to want that matters to him. I think that's what's surprising and wonderful to me.
Well, I guess at the end of the day, and this is the thing, I think at the end of the day, what makes good writing is that the characters are human. It's important to remember that, so most sociopaths don't read a lot of novels. Most sociopaths aren't people that want to find people to identify with. But most humans, they want to see stories about humans, which means that no matter what you go through, no matter how much trauma and trouble you go through, you want a character, either hero or villain, who is going to be someone who has a human center. So when you look at a character like Azelle, who has no human center because she created her own form rather than taking her own form, you see this where she is like, I am more than these things. Yeah. These things are not worth my time. You, Fitz and Simmons, you're worth my time because you're wonderful people, don't get me wrong. But, you have to understand what a rarity you are in the galaxy. And for Sarge, it's a very different world because Sarge had a form provided to him, and he took that form. And when he took that form, from the fear dimension manifest by the monolith energy that sent him, 1,000 years back in time and space. It opens up this idea that, you know what? There's more to this story, and he wants to find his own place in it. And I thought that was amazing.
Yeah.
And I do want to see where Sarge's story goes. I want to see, not for nothing, there's an aspect, and we've talked about this before, is Coulson died, but he's already had the home base treatment, which is what brought him back from the dead.
Right.
There's no guarantee that just because he dies that he doesn't come back.
Right.
And we see that with Sarge here, because he has died, but he comes right back. And that might be leading us to think that, yeah, Coulson can do that too.
Yeah, and there's obviously enough of Coulson in there already.
Mm-hmm. Well, because he latched onto what was Coulson's spirit.
Yeah.
And he decided he wanted it. I mean, there's a great aspect of this with the idea of Secret. Secret Wars 2 was one of my favorite comic book series. I will actually say this. Fight me, nerds. Secret Wars 2 is better than Secret Wars 1. Secret Wars 2 is the idea of the Beyonder coming to Earth to understand humanity by being human. And he actually takes the form of Captain America, which he later alters in his own way, and gets the black Jerry curl and all that kind of stuff that we know him for. But when he first shows up, he is Captain America, and he is very naive, and he is working through his life, and he he goes to Luke Cage, Power Man, and Iron Fist, and Iron Fist is starting to say, well, you have to understand, you actually have what we all sought, was to be one with everything. Why would you want to know what it is to be as us? And Luke Cage is like, no, man, don't listen to him. What matters in this world is money. And he says, oh, you mean like gold? And he turns the entire Rand Corporation building into gold. Fun fact for that. But then he winds up falling in with some mobsters, and it gets crazy after that. But to me, Secret Wars 2 is the best storyline in the entire Marvel universe. Fight me, nerds. But again, it's this idea of this being who comes to be human, and then has to deal with what being human is, and the Beyonder falls in love with the Dazzler, and has to deal with what it means when you love someone and then they reject you. But you do love them, so it's not like you can force them to love you, because that would be a violation of, that would make you a monster. You don't want to be a monster,
And that would change the definition of what you feel. It wouldn't be love anymore.
Exactly. That's why the genie says in Aladdin of the three worlds, I can't make someone love you.
Right.
That's not a power I have.
Right.
Because it won't be loved. But now at the same time, for a guy like Jafar, it's like he wouldn't care.
Right, because love isn't truly what he's interested in. It's possession and ownership, and you can call it love if you want. I can call it love if you'd like, but this is what I really want.
Exactly, and that's why they're villains. Which is why I think Sarge is not a villain. I think Sarge has enough humanity in him. Yeah, maybe borrowed from Coulson, but you know what? That's enough. It's enough that he just wants to be human. He wants
right, and he had plenty to go around.
Exactly. So at the end of this, we have this idea that, Azel takes over Yo-Yo's body. Although, again, I don't know if Azel knows Yo-Yo's powers and limitations.
I kind of got the sense that Yo-Yo doesn't know the upper limit of her powers, and that once Azel gets there and she's like, oh, and I think some of that might even be a revelation to Yo-Yo herself.
Well, actually, what I was going to say is, the thing about Yo-Yo's powers, the reason she's called Yo-Yo, she can move as fast as she needs to any point, but she has to return to the point she started.
Oh, how interesting.
Yes. So, for example, when you see her and she runs and takes the device and runs back, but Azel has already taken her over. But that's where she runs there and runs back.
That's so smart.
but that's the thing about her powers. Her power is always that she must return to the point at which she started.
Right.
So she can run as fast as she wants, but then she has to go back to that point she started, which is actually kind of a crazy power if you want to run away from something.
Right, because then I would just shoot where you were.
Well, exactly. Well, what you do is what you would do is you run towards the problem, handle the problem, and then run back behind it. So what you see her do, she runs, she puts cuffs on him, and then she runs backward. She runs, disarms, and then comes back.
Yeah, it would be interesting if one day a bullet is fired and she moves out of it, beats the guy up, but the bullet's already left, and by the time she gets back, the bullet reaches her in time.
Well, you have to imagine that she's smarter than that.
Well,
and
fair enough.
There's actually not a limit on how.
Well, I mean, but is she though? Because I mean, it's kind of the same principle that Izel employed here to gain access to her body, you know?
Well, no, I mean, one imagines that she can just jump body, because at that point she was already in her Izel form, which is also interesting to see that it's both corporal and non-corporal, because she couldn't just walk through the door, but she also could just phase into someone else's body. So that's an interesting quality of Izel. That obviously she can essentially she can possess bodies and she can have a body, but she can't walk through solid objects.
Interesting.
Yes, and we haven't seen her use Yo-Yo's powers yet. As we say, she knows this person has powers, but she doesn't know how those powers work. Because again, her running back could have just been reflexive. So she may think she has access to the powers, but she may not. So there's all sorts of things we're going to see. And the great news is there's another episode coming next week.
Right. And the other interesting thing is how will impact her mind to be in the host, because it obviously changed Coulson. So going from host to host, I wonder if there will be some sort of an effect on her mind to have infested all these bodies.
If she has to sit there for a while. That's an interesting question, because that's the thing, and that was said earlier in this episode, we don't know what the rules are. How long can she stay in a body? How long can she be outside of a body? So it turns out she can be outside of a body as long as she wants. But how long while she's in a body before that body starts to influence who she is?
Right.
And I think we'll see that a bit next week, especially because we've seen the tapes about Coulson and her talking and how, being in that body affects him. Affects Mukluk.
A chocolate or whatever.
Yeah. Bulbous Bouffant. Anyway, anything else to say about tonight's episode, Mozz?
No, I think we caught to all the important philosophical points, I think.
I think we have done a lot. This has been a great episode. Honestly, this is what I love about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And especially, I think since last season, they were like, you know what? We can be canceled at any time. We're leaving it all on the table. We're not going to pull any punches. We're not going to try to skirt the issues. We're going to do this as you do. And I think that has been the redeeming grace. I think they're going to do this season and next season just as well. They knew better. I know about season 7, but not for nothing. First off, let me just say, 7 seasons for any show is a good run of a show. There's very few shows that go more than like 5 seasons. So getting that 7th season, that's a coup for them. And after it's all said and done, there's still actors and characters in the Disney Marvel Cinematic Universe. So they can all show up at any time. And the fact of the matter is that, they're contract players now. And, from now on, anytime anyone's writing a story, they say, oh, should we have a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent in it? Yeah, who's available? We can't get Nick Fury. Can Cobus Saunders do it? No, she's got her new show on ABC too. Okay, give me Melinda May. Give me Mac. Give me Fitz and Simmons, we need this kind of guy, We need a new Tony Stark. Give me Fitz, And that's the thing, and that's what they're going to build out from this. And so, yeah, I am knowing that they end in season 7 just gets me more excited for the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Because I know they're going to do so much more. But anyway.
Indeed.
In the meantime, Mozz, if anyone wants to talk to you about what the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. might do this season, next season, or beyond, how can they find you?
Well, if you've got some info on beyond, I'd be very interested to hear that. But you can email me at mozzmanzor@gmail.com or find me on Facebook under Mozz Manzor. That's MOZZMANZOOR.
And if you'd like to write to me that old-fashioned email way, the way our mothers and fathers once did, and our other non-gendered parents, if you have those, feel free to do so at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, @gmail.com. And of course, follow me on Twitter as I live tweet Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Cloak and Dagger, whatever else happens to be on when I have the chance to tweet. The Orville, which is now coming back to Hulu, and I'm actually really excited about that. Although again, you can't live tweet it, and that's the hard part about Hulu is you can't live tweet something that's streaming. Very frustrating. At Charlie Esser, that's CharlieEsser. Look for the two E's in the middle.
For quality. Ping!
You know, it strikes me that, really, the entire business model of Twitter is going to get hurt by a lack of must-watch at-time television. Because I think a lot of Twitter is based on that time frame of what are you doing right now and other people doing that same thing. So I think that more shows moving to streaming platforms could, in fact, at some point kill Twitter. But we'll see what happens next time as we once again face the gods, monsters, heroes, and villains who threaten our Earth. And only the heroes and monsters of S.H.I.E.L.D. stand in their way. At which point, faced with all of the daring do and damage the world has to throw at us, all we can say is Nuff said.